Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Have you ever felt, just completely swamped by information?
Oh, absolutely. Or maybe facing a really tough decision.
Exactly. Or maybe wondering how to speed up your own growth, that sort of thing.
Or why some people just seem to glide through problems while others get stuck.
Right. Well, if any of that sounds familiar, you are definitely in the right place today. We're setting out on what I think is a truly transformative deep dive.
Yeah, because today we're not just, piling on more facts. Our mission is really to sift through hours of different takes, different perspectives on mental models.
And these aren't just theories, right?
No, not at all. They're powerful, really actionable frameworks, tools for thinking, for solving problems, making decisions.
We've looked at a ton of sources, haven't we? YouTube deep dives, expert interviews.
We have. We've tried to pull out the common threads, but also notice the subtle differences in how people talk about and use these models.
And the goal for you listening?
The goal is to distill all that down into a clear, tangible set of methods, things you can start using like today.
To sort of upgrade your mental operating system.
That's a great way to put it. Improve things at work, in relationships, just personal development.
Yeah, because it feels like everyone talks about mental models, but actually breaking them down into how you use them, that seems rarer.
It really does.
So before we jump right in, you mentioned these are foundational. What's like one big misconception people have that we should clear up first?
Good question. I think a lot of people assume mental models are these abstract academic things, only for philosophers or CEOs.
Right. Not for everyday life.
Exactly. But the truth is, you're already using thousands of them every single day, probably without even realizing it.
How so?
Well, your brain is essentially a pattern matching machine, right? It's constantly trying to make sense of everything, connect the dots.
Okay.
And it does that using these internal maps, these representations of how things work. That's what mental models are.
So we all have them, we just don't maybe call them that.
Pretty much. So the real goal here isn't about inventing totally new ways to think from nothing. It's more about bringing those hidden unconscious models you already have into the light.
Into conscious awareness.
Yes. So you can look at them, evaluate them, maybe choose better ones, or ditch the ones that aren't working for you anymore.
Moving from just reacting to actually thinking deliberately?
Precisely. It's about conscious choice.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So let's get down to basics then. What are these mental models, fundamentally, and why do you really need them?
At their core, think of them like simplified maps for your mind.
Like a city map.
Exactly like a city map. You pull one out when you're in a new city. It doesn't show every single building, every pothole.
No, it'd be useless if it did. Too much detail.
Right. It's a strategic simplification. It gives you the layout, the main roads, the landmarks, so you can navigate without getting totally overwhelmed.
So mental models do that for our thinking. Help us navigate complexity.
Perfectly put. They help you organize complex information, see patterns, predict what might happen next, and just generally make sense of your experiences without drowning in, raw data.
But you said they're simplified. Are they, wrong then? Imperfect?
They are inherently imperfect, yes.
Yeah.
They have to be. They're your personal interpretations of reality. They're not reality itself.
Right.
But that's not a bug. It's a feature. That simplification is what makes them useful. It reduces the complexity down to something manageable. Without them, we'd just be paralyzed, lost in a flood of information.
Okay, so they're essential shortcuts. But what's the catch? Is there a danger in relying on just, say, one or two favorite models?
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge risk.
Yeah.
If your mental toolkit only has a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail.
Right, you see the word through that one lens only.
Precisely. It leads to a really biased, narrow perspective. You end up confirming what you already think, instead of actually understanding the situation.
And you miss things.
You miss crucial insights, you overlook opportunities, and your decision-making really suffers. It's like trying to understand, quantum physics using only the rules of baseball. You're just not equipped.
So how do we fight that narrowness? I know Charlie Munger, the investor, talked a lot about this, the latticework of mental models.
Yes. Munger's idea of a broad latticework is key here. It's not just about collecting a few clever ideas.
It's more than a list.
Much more. It's about building a multidisciplinary collection of these tools, drawing insights from physics, biology, psychology, economics, history, all over the place.
So you get different perspectives.
Different perspectives, but also you start to see the underlying principles that connect these different fields. This idea of liquid knowledge comes into play.
Liquid knowledge, what's that?
It means your understanding isn't stuck in silos. It flows. You see how a concept like feedback loops works in biology, but also in economics or even in your relationships.
Ah, so you're connecting the dots across different areas.
Exactly. Physics teaches you about leverage. Biology shows you evolution and adaptation. Psychology uncovers biases. When you weave these together, your ability to understand complex systems just skyrockets. You get real thought clarity.
That makes sense. It's about the connections, not just the nodes.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
That lattice work lets you tackle problems from multiple angles, finding solutions someone stuck in one discipline would never see.
Okay, this really highlights the danger of outdated or just plain bad models. Can you give an example of how a poor mental model leads to bad decisions in, say, a business context?
Sure. Think about a traditional company, maybe one that's been around for decades, facing digital disruption.
Okay.
Their ingrained mental model might be something like, our value is in our physical product, or customer relationships are built face-to-face in our stores.
The old way of doing things.
Right. But the actual market reality has shifted dramatically. Now it's about online experiences, data, maybe subscription services, constant digital engagement.
So their map is wrong.
Their map is outdated. If they cling to that old model, they keep pouring resources into physical stores or old sales methods while their customers have moved online.
They miss the boat.
They miss the boat. And worse, they might sink the ship. It shows how dangerous it is to stick to an old map when the world changes. But flip that.
Ah, opportunity.
Exactly. Understanding where old models are breaking down is where innovation happens. Think about the shift from libraries just being physical buildings to digital access everywhere.
Or getting eye exams online instead of always in person.
Or mobile banking, completely changing finance in parts of Africa, bypassing traditional banks. These huge shifts happen when someone challenges the dominant mental model.
Okay, so understanding and challenging these models is key not just for avoiding mistakes, but for finding massive potential.
That's the core idea.
This flows perfectly into looking at some specific, really core mental models. Let's start with a big one, first principles thinking.
Ah, yes. This is arguably one of the most powerful tools for cutting through the noise and understanding reality.
How does it work exactly? It sounds kind of fundamental.
It is. It's about deconstructing a problem down to its most basic, undeniable truths, the absolute core facts.
Yeah.
It forces you to ask, what do I know for sure is true here?
Independent of assumptions or what everyone else is doing.
Precisely. It's the opposite of reasoning by analogy, or what some call borrowed thinking, where you just copy others or make tiny tweaks to what already exists.
So instead of what do people normally do here, you ask.
You ask, what are the fundamental building blocks? What are the physics of the situation? Then you build your understanding or your solution back up from those foundational truths.
Can you give a practical example? Maybe for personal life.
Sure, let's take health and fitness. Most people follow trends, right?
Yeah.
Keto, paleo, whatever the latest diet is. This reasoning by analogy, this worked for them, maybe it'll work for me.
Mm-hmm.
A first principles thinker would step back and ask, okay, what does a human body actually need to function well? What are the fundamental requirements?
Like energy, nutrients, hydration.
It's exactly. Protein for muscle repair, vitamins and minerals for processes, water, energy sources like carbs and fats. Once you identify those core needs, then you can build a way of eating that specifically addresses your body's fundamental requirements, ignoring the fads.
So you're building from the ground up based on truth, not trends.
You got it. It leads to more robust, personalized solutions.
And this is famously how Elon Musk approaches things,
Yeah.
right? With Tesla and SpaceX.
Famously, take battery costs. The conventional wisdom was that batteries were expensive, and that was just the way it was.
People accepted it.
Musk didn't. He asked, okay, what are batteries made of? What are the fundamental material constituents?
Like nickel, cobalt, lithium.
Right. Then he asked, what's the market cost of those raw materials on the London Metal Exchange? He found the cost of the raw components was vastly lower than the cost of a finished battery.
Ah, so the bottleneck wasn't the raw materials themselves.
No. It was in the processing, the assembly, the supply chain assumptions. By breaking it down to first principles, he saw a way to drastically reduce costs by bringing manufacturing in-house and rethinking the process from scratch.
That's disruptive. It's not just improving, it's reinventing.
That's the power of it. It stops you from just optimizing a broken system. You question the system itself. Think about creating fake meat instead of breeding a cow. You asked, what are the fundamental components of meat? Amino acids, sugars, fats. Can we assemble those directly?
Wow. So how can you, listening, build this habit?
Start small. Question assumptions daily. Ask yourself, is this really true, or is it just something we've always done? Or, if I had to invent this from scratch today, knowing what I know now, what would I do?
Challenge the defaults.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It helps you solve problems at their root cause, not just treat the symptoms. You become an innovator, not just an optimizer.
Okay, so first principles gives a clarity on the core issues.
Yeah.
Well, what about the consequences of your actions? You solve one problem, but maybe create another.
That's where second-order thinking comes in. It's crucial. First-order thinking is about the immediate result. If I do X, Y will happen.
Simple cause and effect.
Right. Second-order thinking asks, okay, why happened, and then what? What are the ripple effects, the consequences of the consequences?
Thinking further down the chain.
Yes, and considering the longer-term, less obvious outcomes, it's about anticipating unintended results.
Like the Cobra effect example. That's a classic, isn't it?
It really illustrates it perfectly. British officials in India wanted fewer cobras. First-order solution. Offer a bounty for dead cobras.
Makes sense. Incentive drives behavior.
The first-order result was, indeed, more dead cobras turned in. Success. But the second-order consequence was people started breeding cobras to collect the bounty.
Oh, no.
And when the government figured this out and canceled the program, the breeders just released their now worthless snakes.
Leading to more cobras than before.
Exactly. They solved the immediate problem, but made the overall situation worse because they didn't think through the second-order effects of the incentive.
It makes me think of, like, trying to quickly clear my email inbox by setting up aggressive filters.
Okay.
First order. Fewer emails in the inbox. Yay! Second order, I start missing crucial emails because the filters are too broad, creating a new problem.
That's a perfect everyday example.
Yeah.
You optimized for one thing, empty inbox, but created an unintended negative consequence, missed information.
So, thinking bigger picture.
Yeah, consider something like the widespread use of antibiotics in farm animals. First order, faster growth, maybe less disease in the short term, higher profits.
Seems like a win for the farmer.
But the second order effect is the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which is a massive global health threat to humans. The short-term gain creates a huge long-term risk.
Wow. So, applying this, how does it help us?
Well, it helps you make more robust decisions. It helps you build trust in relationships and in business, because people see you're considering the wider impact, not just your immediate gain.
You seem more thoughtful, less reactive.
Exactly. It shifts you from just reacting to immediate stimuli to proactively considering the future landscape.
Okay, another powerful tool is inversion. This one feels a bit counterintuitive, flipping problems on their head.
It does feel counterintuitive sometimes, but it's incredibly effective. Instead of asking, how do I achieve success? You invert it and ask, what are all the things I could do that would guarantee failure?
And then you avoid those things.
Precisely. Or instead of, how can I be happy? You ask, what makes people miserable?
Yeah.
And then work to eliminate those sources of misery from your life.
Why does this work so well?
Often, the path to failure or misery is much clearer and easier to identify than the path to success or brilliance. As Charlie Munger said, it is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent.
Avoiding stupidity is easier than seeking brilliance. I like that.
It's often true. Focusing on what not to do clears away a lot of potential mistakes.
Any big examples of this in action?
Jeff Bezos at Amazon is a great one. Instead of constantly chasing what's going to change in the next 10 years, he famously inverted the question.
He asked what wouldn't change.
Exactly. What's not going to change? He figured customers will always want lower prices, faster shipping, and wider selection.
Those seem like pretty safe bets.
Right. So he decided to build Amazon's entire strategy around relentlessly improving those stable, unchanging customer desires. That focus gave them a huge long-term advantage over competitors chasing fads.
It reminds me a bit of how Sherlock Holmes worked. Didn't he use inversion?
Absolutely. He wouldn't just look at the clues and ask what happened. He often formed a hypothesis and then ask, okay, if this were true, what else would have to be true? Or what would I expect to see if this wasn't true? He inverted the problem to test his theories.
So for someone listening, maybe in business, how could they use inversion?
Ask yourself, how could I absolutely destroy this project or this company? Identify the biggest vulnerabilities, the surest ways to fail.
And then build defenses against those.
Exactly. Understand the failure modes to build resilience. Or in finance, look at John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard.
Index funds, right?
Yes, he saw investors constantly trying, and mostly failing, to beat the market through active trading, paying high fees. He inverted the goal. Instead of, how do I beat the market, he asked.
How do I help investors not lose to the market? Or at least not lose to fees and bad timing?
Precisely. His inverted question led to the creation of low-cost index funds that simply track the market. By focusing on avoiding the common pitfalls of active investing, he created immense value for millions. Sometimes doing less, avoiding the stupid mistakes, is the most brilliant strategy.
Okay, let's shift gears to navigating uncertainty and risk. The world is messy, things aren't black and white. How do we deal with that? Probabilistic thinking seems key here.
Absolutely essential. We
Yeah.
naturally crave certainty, right? We want a definite yes or no. But the real world rarely works that way.
Things are usually shades of gray.
Exactly. Probabilistic thinking is about embracing that uncertainty. Instead of asking, will this happen or not? You ask, what's the likelihood this will happen? What are the odds?
Thinking in percentages, in chances.
Right. It's about weighing possibilities, understanding that outcomes exist on a spectrum of probability.
How does that help, practically?
It helps you manage risk much more effectively. Let's use a simple example. Planning an outdoor event, like a picnic.
Okay.
The forecast says a 30% chance of rain. That doesn't mean it will rain or it won't. It's a probability.
A 3 out of 10 chance.
Right. So probabilistic thinking means you don't just ignore it, nor do you cancel automatically. You weigh the odds. Maybe you pack umbrellas or have a backup indoor location ready. You manage the risk based on its likelihood.
Instead of just hoping for the best or assuming the worst.
Exactly. And this becomes critical when the stakes are higher. Think about a business launching a new product. They might estimate a 60% chance of success and a 40% chance of failure based on market research.
It's not a guarantee either way.
No. If the product fails, it doesn't necessarily mean they made a bad decision. It might mean they took a calculated risk where the potential upside justified the probability of failure. Over the long run, making decisions based on sound probabilities, even if some individual bets don't pay off, leads to better outcomes.
It's like how venture capitalists operate, isn't it?
Precisely. VCs know most of their startup investments will fail. That's the baseline probability.
But they're okay with that.
They are, because they use probabilistic thinking. They assess the potential upside of each investment, the chance of a huge return if it does succeed, and balance that against the likelihood of failure. They spread their bets, knowing that one or two massive wins can cover all the losses and generate huge profits. They're playing the odds across a portfolio.
So for someone listening, how do you cultivate this?
Get comfortable with the idea of uncertainty, except that you won't always know the exact outcome. Use data where you can to inform your probability estimates, and crucially, decouple the quality of your decision from the outcome. A good decision based on probabilities can still lead to a bad outcome sometimes, just due to chance.
Thinking in ranges helps too, right? Like estimating income.
Yes, instead of saying, I'll earn exactly $100K next year, think, my income is likely to be between $90K and $110K. It acknowledges the inherent uncertainty while still allowing you to plan.
Okay, moving on. Occam's razor. This one feels familiar. The simplest explanation is often the best.
Right. When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. It's a heuristic, a rule of thumb, suggesting that when faced with competing explanations, the one that makes the fewest assumptions is usually preferable.
Why is simplicity better?
Simpler explanations are often easier to test, less likely to be wrong due to complex interdependencies, and just generally more probable. But I think its real power lies in reducing our mental load.
How so?
Our minds love complexity sometimes. We spin these elaborate narratives, especially when we lack information. Think about if someone you know doesn't text back right away.
Oh yeah, the mind can go wild. Are they mad at me? Did something terrible happen? Is it aliens?
Exactly. You create these personal conspiracy theories. Occam's razor gently pulls you back and says, hey, what's the simplest explanation?
They're busy. Their phone died. They just forgot.
Right. Usually far more likely, and saves you a ton of mental energy and unnecessary stress. By defaulting to the simplest explanation first, you avoid getting lost in complex, low-probability scenarios.
So it's a cognitive miser tool. Helps save brain power.
In a way, yes. And in areas like business or engineering, simpler solutions with fewer moving parts tend to be more robust. If your plan requires 50 things to go exactly right, it's fragile. A plan relying on 2 or 3 core drivers is more likely to withstand unexpected bumps.
Okay, related to simplifying our interpretations, especially of people, is Hanlon's razor.
Another great razor. This one states, never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity, or perhaps more charitably, by mistake, forgetfulness, carelessness, or just basic human error.
So assume incompetence or accident before assuming bad intentions.
Pretty much, it encourages you to interpret others' actions more generously and with less stress.
But it's hard, isn't it? We're kind of wired to take things personally. Someone cuts you off in traffic.
Your immediate reaction is often, that jerk did that to me. Malice.
Yeah. Or someone's late for a meeting, you think, they don't respect my time.
Hanlon's razor invites you to pause and consider alternative, often more probable, explanations. Maybe the driver who cut you off was distracted, rushing to an emergency, or just didn't see you. Maybe the late person got stuck in unexpected traffic or had a prior meeting run over.
They probably weren't even thinking about me at all.
That's often the case. It wasn't malicious. It was just stuff happening. Doesn't mean people never act out of malice, of course.
Sure, bad actors exist.
But Hanlon's razor suggests that most negative interactions are probably due to less sinister causes. Misunderstandings, incompetence, distraction, different priorities.
So how does applying this help you day to day?
Huge impact. It dramatically reduces unnecessary conflict in relationships, at work, online. You give people the benefit of the doubt more often.
Saves energy on pointless arguments.
Absolutely. You avoid escalating situations based on assumptions of malice. It fosters more understanding and less reactive anger. It's not about being naive. It's about choosing a more productive and less stressful interpretation when ambiguity exists.
Now let's talk about extreme events. You mentioned probabilities, but what about those really big, unexpected things? This brings us to fat-tailed distributions and robustness. Sounds a bit technical.
It can sound that way, but the core idea is crucial for understanding risk in the real world. We often assume things follow a nice, predictable bell curve, a normal distribution. Like human height, most people are clustered around the average, and extreme heights are very rare.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mediocrity is common.
Right. But many important phenomena in the world don't follow that pattern. They follow fat-tailed distributions.
Fat tails, meaning?
Meaning the extremes, the really big or really small events, are far, far more likely than a normal bell curve would predict. The tails of the distribution curve are fatter.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Wealth distribution is famously fat-tailed. A few people have vastly more wealth than the average. Book sales, most books sell few copies. A tiny number become massive bestsellers. Earthquakes, lots of tiny tremors, but occasionally a catastrophic one. City sizes, lots of small towns, a few giant metropolises.
Okay, I see. The outliers have a much bigger impact than in a bell curve world.
Exactly. And here's the critical part. Many traditional risk models, especially in finance, assume normal distributions.
Which means they underestimate the likelihood of extreme events.
Massively. Stock market crashes, for instance, happen much more frequently and are much more severe than standard financial models predict, because market returns are fat-tailed. Nassim Taleb calls this living in extremistan, where unpredictable, high-impact events dominate, rather than mediocristan, where things average out nicely.
So if we live in extremistan, how should we operate? Relying on averages is dangerous.
Right. The key strategy shift is to focus on robustness rather than just optimization.
What's the difference?
Optimization tries to find the single best solution based on current predictions and averages, like building a bridge perfectly designed for the average daily traffic load.
Okay.
Robustness aims to build systems that can survive and function across a much wider range of conditions, including those unexpected extreme events. So you build the bridge strong enough to withstand not just average traffic, but also hurricane-force winds, floods, earthquakes, and a convoy of overloaded trucks.
You build in resilience for the unexpected.
Yes. You sacrifice maybe a little bit of peak efficiency under normal conditions for the ability to survive the extremes. This is crucial for long-term survival and reliability, especially as systems get more complex.
And does this connect to luck versus skill?
It does. In fat-tailed domains, wild success can often be driven as much by luck, being in the right place at the right time to catch a positive feedback loop, as by skill alone. Recognizing this can be both humbling and strangely calming. It means you focus on positioning yourself to benefit from positive extremes while protecting yourself from the negative ones.
Okay, let's turn inwards now. Mental models for self-awareness and personal growth. First up, the circle of competence.
A really important one, popularized by Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Your circle of competence is simply the area where you have genuine, deep expertise and knowledge.
What you really know well.
Exactly. But just as important, maybe even more important, is knowing the boundary of that circle. knowing what you don't know, defining your limitations.
Why is knowing your limits so critical?
Because making good decisions requires you to operate within your circle, or at least be acutely aware when you're stepping outside it. You wouldn't perform surgery if you weren't a trained surgeon, right?
Definitely not.
That's an obvious example. But we step outside our circles in subtler ways all the time. Maybe giving financial advice when we're not experts, or making complex business decisions in areas we don't fully understand. Being honest about your limits prevents costly mistakes.
So how do you build or strengthen your circle?
It's like a muscle. You expand it gradually through deliberate learning, practice, getting feedback, and being honest about results. Keeping track of your decisions and why you made them, then reviewing the outcomes, is a great way to learn where your understanding is strong and where it's weak.
And what if you have to operate outside your circle? Life demands it sometimes.
Then you proceed with caution. Do your homework, learn the basics, and crucially, consult with people whose circle of competence does cover that area. Find mentors, ask experts. Don't just guess or rely on bravado. Humility about your limits is a strength.
Next, related to our internal understanding, the map is not the territory. We touched on this earlier.
Yes, it's a fundamental concept worth revisiting. It simply reminds us that our perception of reality, our mental map, is not reality itself.
All models are wrong, but some are useful.
Exactly. Our maps are always simplifications, abstractions. And sometimes they're based on outdated information snapshots of a territory that has since changed.
And the danger is when we forget it's just a map.
Precisely. Or when the territory changes rapidly, but our map updates slowly, or not at all. This happens a lot in organizations, doesn't it? People start managing the metrics on the dashboard, the map, instead of paying attention to the actual reality on the ground, the territory.
They optimize for the map, even if it leads them away from the real goal.
Right. And it's especially hard to update your own map, isn't it? Particularly if you're the one who drew it, or you've invested a lot in believing it's accurate.
Ego gets in the way.
Massively. Which brings us to a critical related idea: outcome over ego. Meaning, you have to prioritize achieving the desired outcome over your need to be right, or your attachment to your specific map or belief.
That sounds simple, but feels really hard in practice.
It is. Our natural tendency is often to dig in, defend our position, find evidence that confirms our map, even when reality is screaming otherwise. We work incredibly hard to prove ourselves right, sometimes distorting the territory to fit our map.
How do we get better at this?
Look at elite athletes. They
Yes.
get constant, unambiguous feedback from the territory, the scoreboard, the stopwatch, whether the ball went in.
They can't argue with the results.
Right. So they tend to be much better at quickly updating their map based on that feedback. They adjust their technique, their strategy. They don't let ego stop them from improving. For the rest of us, it requires conscious effort. Constantly ask, is what I'm doing actually moving me towards my goal, or am I just trying to prove my initial idea was correct?
Be willing to change the map.
Be willing to throw the map away and draw a new one if needed. Be pleased with progress, but never so satisfied that you stop looking critically at the territory. That drive for continuous improvement, not from insecurity, but from a desire to engage effectively with reality.
This ties into our beliefs shaping our reality. Let's talk about belief bias and identity shifting. This sounds powerful.
It really is. The core idea here is that, to a large extent, whatever you fundamentally believe about the world tends to become true for you.
How can that be? Facts are facts, right?
Well, yes and no. Our beliefs act as filters. Two people can look at the exact same set of facts and, because of their underlying preordained belief bias, the assumptions and narratives they hold, they can come to completely opposite conclusions.
They interpret the facts differently based on their existing beliefs.
Exactly. We see what we believe. There was a fascinating study involving cologne.
Oh yeah, I heard about this. Tell the listeners.
Okay, so researchers had men spray on either an expensive branded cologne or just a neutral spray. Then they had women rate the men's attractiveness from behind a one-way mirror, so the women couldn't actually smell the cologne.
So the scent itself wasn't a factor for the women.
Right, but guess what? The men who thought they were wearing the expensive, attractive cologne were consistently rated as more attractive.
Why?
Because believing they were more attractive changed their behavior. They presumably stood taller, seemed more confident, altered their nonverbal cues. Their belief shifted their reality in a way that others perceived. The belief was more powerful than the physical substance itself.
Wow. That's a strong example. What about stress?
Kelly McGonigal's work, famous from her TED Talk, shows something similar. Studies found that experiencing high levels of stress was correlated with negative health outcomes only for people who also believed that stress was harmful to their health.
So if you believe stress was bad, it was. If you didn't.
If you viewed the physical signs of stress pounding heart, faster breathing as your body energizing itself to meet a challenge, rather than as harmful, then the negative health consequences largely disappeared.
So our interpretation, our belief about stress, changes its physical effect.
To a remarkable degree, yes. It highlights how much our mental constructs and self-talk influence our physical reality. Changing simple phrases like reframing "I'm so stressed and busy" to "my system is fully optimized and engaged" can actually alter your physiological response.
Okay, this leads to the really practical part, identity shifting. How does that work?
The idea is that the universe, or maybe just our subconscious, acts like a mirror, reflecting back to us what we fundamentally believe ourselves to be. If you hold an identity of "I'm always broke," opportunities for abundance might pass you by unnoticed.
Just they don't fit your identity.
Exactly. But the exciting part is you can consciously choose and install new identities. You can decide, "I am a healthy person," or "I am someone who attracts wealth easily."
How do you install them? Just saying it isn't enough, surely.
It often involves techniques like using lofty questions or affirmations, particularly in a relaxed state meditation, just before sleep, even in the shower when the subconscious is more receptive.
Lofty questions. Like what?
Instead of affirming "I am wealthy," which your conscious mind might argue with, you ask a question that presupposes it. Why is it so easy for me to make, keep, and multiply money? Or why does good health come so naturally to me?
Ah, so you bypass the critical factor.
You gently program the subconscious with the desired identity. Repeating these questions can literally start to change how you perceive the world, what opportunities you notice, and how your body responds. This is why diets often fail long-term. They focus on behavior, not identity. Shifting your identity to "I am a healthy person" is far more powerful than just trying to follow diet rules.
And related to identity and beliefs is what we choose to optimize for. Optimizing for meaningful metrics. What does this mean?
It means being conscious about what score you're actually trying to maximize in your life, because we often optimize for the wrong things without realizing it.
Like on social media, optimizing for likes and followers.
That's a perfect example. People chase those numbers, thinking they equal happiness or success. But often, that focus takes away from genuine well-being, real connection, or deep work. They're optimizing for a superficial metric that doesn't actually align with a meaningful life.
So we need to define our own metrics.
Yes.
Well,
What truly matters to you? For some, it might be maximizing Jeep focus time. For others, it could be quality time with family. One person I know filters every decision through the lens of, will this give me more time freedom or more energy?
time and energy as the core metrics.
For them, yes. Once you define what you are truly optimizing for, maybe it's learning, maybe it's contribution, maybe it's recovery, your actions start to align much more naturally. You start building the life you actually want, not the life someone else's metrics dictate.
Okay, let's move into models for effective action. Getting things done. Opportunity cost is a big one from economics, but how does it apply more broadly?
Hugely important. The core idea is simple. Choosing one thing always means not choosing something else. Every yes contains an implicit no.
The cost of the opportunity you gave up.
Exactly. And most people completely ignore this invisible cost when making decisions.
We focus on what we're getting, not what we're sacrificing.
Right. And crucially, the scarcest resource isn't usually money. It's your time, your attention, your energy.
You can always make more money, but you can't make more time.
Precisely. You can never get back a wasted hour or a year spent on the wrong priority. Truly successful people understand this deeply. They guard their attention fiercely. They constantly ask themselves, consciously or unconsciously, what is the absolute highest leverage use of my time and energy right now?
This is why saying no is so important, like that Buffett quote.
Yes. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything.
Why almost everything?
Because they understand the immense opportunity cost of saying yes. Every commitment, every project, every meeting has to earn its place by being a better use of their limited resources than all the other things they could be doing. They're focused on playing the right game, not every single game available.
So it forces you to evaluate choices based on long-term return, not just immediate appeal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is spending $1,000 on a weekend getaway the best use of that resource? Or would investing it in a skill-building course have a higher long-term return based on your goals? Opportunity cost forces that kind of comparison.
This leads nicely into long-term thinking and the power of compounding.
Yes, they're deeply related. Most people operate on very short time horizons. We want results now, instant gratification, quick feedback loops.
Checking notifications, looking for immediate wins.
Right. We panic during market dips. We quit projects if we don't see progress in a week. Ultra-successful people, almost universally, play the long game. They think in years, decades even.
Why is that so powerful?
Because the biggest rewards in wealth, in impact, in developing deep skills, in building strong relationships, in achieving true freedom, almost always come from compounding over long periods. They require delayed gratification.
Planting seeds today that will grow into trees later.
Exactly. Those who are willing to put in the work now, knowing the payoff might be far down the road, are the ones who build things that last. They understand that small, consistent efforts compound into massive results over time.
Like in investing or learning or building trust.
All perfect examples.
Yeah.
So how can you cultivate this? A simple daily journaling habit can help. Ask yourself,
Okay, 1.
what am I doing today that compounds in value over time, e.g., learning, exercising, relationship building? 2, what short-term temptation am I avoiding today in service of my long-term goals? 3, what does the future me I aspire to be look like, and what are they thanking the present me for doing right now?
Ah, that reframes things. Shifts the lens from just now to next year or next decade.
It subtly changes your focus from just speed to scale, from immediate payoff to lasting value. Long-term thinkers might seem slow or boring initially, but they're the ones building real sustainable success.
But sometimes you need to act faster, right? Not get stuck in endless long-term planning. This brings us to the 40-70% rule and action bias. What's this about?
This comes from Colin Powell, the former U.S. Secretary of State. His rule of thumb for making decisions was gather information until you have somewhere between 40% and 70% of what you'd ideally like to know.
And then decide, not wait for 100%.
Exactly. His reasoning was that if you decide with less than 40% of the information, you're just guessing, shooting from the hip.
Too little data, too risky.
Right. But if you wait until you have more than 70% of the information, you've waited too long. The opportunity may have passed, or you've fallen into analysis paralysis.
The window closed while you were still researching.
Precisely. The key insight is that many, maybe most, decisions are not irreversible. You can often make a decision, take a step, and get more information from the results of that action.
Action creates data.
Yes. So having a bias towards action, once you've reached that 40-70% threshold, is often beneficial. Don't wait for perfect information that may never come. Make the call, move forward, and be prepared to adjust based on the feedback you get.
So for the listener, it means maybe intentionally consuming less information sometimes.
It can, yes. Or focusing on the big picture, the general trend, rather than getting lost in every tiny detail. Overgeneralizing slightly for speed can be okay, as long as you're within that 40-70 sweet spot. It combats perfectionism and keeps momentum going.
Let's talk about amplifying impact. Leverage and activation energy. What do these concepts mean in this context?
Leverage is a fundamental concept from physics using a lever to multiply force. A small effort produces a much larger result.
Like Archimedes saying, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world.
Exactly. In life and business, leverage means finding ways to amplify your efforts. A single software developer can write code used by millions that's leveraged through technology. A leader can guide thousands through strategic decisions that's leveraged through people or capital.
So it's about multiplying your output without proportionally increasing your input.
Right. There are different forms. Capital leverage, using borrowed money. Labor leverage, hiring a team, delegation. And technology leverage, software, automation, media. Using leverage effectively is how good decisions turn into extraordinary outcomes.
But there's a downside too, right? Leverage magnifies mistakes.
Absolutely. It cuts both ways. Poor judgment combined with leverage can lead to disaster much faster. That's why good judgment and considering second-order effects are critical when using leverage.
And activation energy, how does that connect?
Activation energy comes from chemistry. It's the minimum energy needed to kickstart a chemical reaction. In life, it's the initial effort required to start doing something, especially something new or difficult.
Like getting off the couch to go for a run.
That's a perfect example. The hardest part is often just starting. The idea here is to consciously lower the activation energy for things you want to do and raise it for things you want to avoid.
Making good habits easier and bad habits harder.
Exactly. Lay out your running clothes the night before, lowers activation energy for running. Keep junk food out of the house, raises activation energy for eating it. It's about designing your environment and routines to nudge you towards desired behaviors by reducing friction.
Okay, two more quick but important ones related to working effectively: specialization and cooperation.
These are fundamental drivers of human progress. Specialization means focusing on becoming really good at one particular thing rather than trying to be a jack of all trades.
Like a brain surgeon versus a general practitioner.
Right. By specializing, individuals and groups can develop much deeper competence and efficiency in specific areas, allowing society to tackle more complex problems.
And cooperation.
Cooperation is simply individuals or groups working together towards a shared goal, often involving some level of trust and potentially sacrificing immediate individual gain for a larger, long-term mutual benefit.
Like people working together to lift something heavy they couldn't lift alone.
That's the basic idea, but it scales up massively. Cooperation is the engine behind teamwork, companies, scientific progress, and civilization itself. It allows us to achieve things far beyond individual capacity. It's arguably humanity's superpower.
But it requires certain conditions to work well, doesn't it? Like trust, repeated interactions, dealing with freeloaders.
Yes, it's not automatic, but understanding the power of combining deep specialization with effective cooperation is key to achieving ambitious goals.
And finally, underpinning so much of behavior: incentives.
Show me the incentive, and I will show you the outcome. That quote sums it up. Our behavior is heavily influenced by incentives, the rewards or punishments associated with different actions.
We seek pleasure, avoid pain, want recognition.
Exactly. Well-designed incentives align individual self-interest with the goals of the larger system. They guide people towards choices that are both personally rewarding and beneficial overall.
But poorly designed incentives can cause chaos, right? Like the Cobra effect again?
Precisely. Or think about a salesperson rewarded only on the number of units sold, not customer satisfaction. They might push unsuitable products just to hit their target, damaging long-term trust.
Or a company executive rewarded solely on quarterly profits might cut R&D spending, boosting short-term numbers but crippling future innovation.
These misaligned incentives are everywhere. And it leads to another crucial concept: bias from incentives.
People start believing what's in their interest to believe.
Often unconsciously, yes. If your job or reputation depends on a certain viewpoint being true, you're highly motivated to find evidence supporting it and ignore evidence against it. Conflicts of interest are so dangerous because they powerfully bias judgment, even in well-intentioned people.
So understanding the incentives at play is crucial for evaluating information or predicting behavior.
Essential. Always ask, what incentives does this person or organization have? It helps you see past the surface arguments and understand the underlying drivers. It makes you a much more critical and realistic observer of the world.
Wow, okay. We've covered a huge amount of ground. So pulling it all together, how do you actually start using these mental models in your daily life? It feels like a lot to remember.
I can feel like that, yeah. The most important thing is to remember they're a toolkit, not a rigid dogma or single checklist. You don't use a hammer for a screw.
Use the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And you get better at choosing the right tool, the right mental model or combination of models through practice. The more you use them, the more intuitive it becomes.
Is there a simple process someone can follow to build the habit?
I think a simple three-step loop works well. First, choose deliberately. When facing a problem or decision, consciously pick one or two models that seem relevant. Don't try to apply all 20 at once.
Okay, choose a lens.
Second, apply and observe. Actively use the model to analyze the situation or make the decision. Pay attention to what happens. What insights did it provide? What were the results?
Be mindful during the application.
And third, record and reflect. This is key. Briefly journal about it. What model did you use? How did it help or hinder? What did you learn? This reflection helps solidify the learning and refine your understanding of when and how to use each model. It helps you spot patterns in your own thinking.
Like Joe building his Obsidian library you mentioned earlier, constantly linking and refining.
Exactly like that. It's an ongoing process of learning and refinement.
What else? Any other key integration tips?
Definitely keep embracing multidisciplinary learning. Actively seek out knowledge from different fields. Read widely. Talk to people with different backgrounds. This builds that liquid knowledge we talked about, making your Latticework stronger and more flexible.
Keep feeding the toolkit.
Right. And always, always practice outcome over ego. Be ruthlessly focused on what actually works, not on defending your past beliefs or ideas. Be willing to be wrong, to pivot, to update your rap. That accelerates learning dramatically.
Cultivate that Pleased but not satisfied mindset.
Yes, be content with your progress, but maintain a healthy drive to keep learning and improving, driven by curiosity and a desire for meaningful engagement, not by a feeling of inadequacy.
What about asking questions?
Crucial. When trying to understand something new or build a new identity, constantly ask why, to get to motivations and first principles, and how, to get practical tactics. Linking a difficult task back to a why you deeply care about can unlock motivation.
And avoiding poverty of commitment.
Yes, in a world of infinite options, resist the urge to constantly switch channels. True achievement often requires deep, focused commitment. Choose what matters and go all in, accepting you might be wrong sometimes. If you never commit, you guarantee you'll never be truly right either.
Define your parameters too, like in a game.
Exactly. When feeling overwhelmed, defining clear goals, rules, and boundaries for yourself, your own game parameters can provide immense clarity and reduce anxiety. It focuses your energy.
And that 3Ps framework.
Problem, principle, practice. A simple way to structure your thinking. What's the problem or purpose? What's the core principle or mental model to apply? What's the specific practice or action I will take?
Okay, fantastic. So just to quickly recap for everyone listening, mental models are your essential toolkit for upgrading your thinking, making better decisions, and navigating this complex world.
We've explored powerful models for clarity like first principles, second-order thinking, and inversion.
Tools for uncertainty like probabilistic thinking, Occam's and Hanlon's razors, and understanding fat tails.
Models for self-awareness and growth like circle of competence, map is not the territory, and identity shifting.
And models for effective action like opportunity cost, long-term thinking, the 40-70 rule, leverage, specialization, cooperation, and incentives.
Phew, it's a lot, but incredibly powerful when applied.
The real magic isn't just knowing them, it's using them, actively applying them to shape your experience and improve your results. It's about making your thinking more deliberate, more effective.
So here's a final thought for you to take away. Think about one specific challenge you're facing right now, big or small.
Just one.
Just one. Now, instead of grabbing just one mental model, maybe try combining two or three we discussed. How could first principles help you break it down to its core? Then, how could second-order thinking help you anticipate the ripples of your potential solution? Maybe inversion helps you see what to avoid.
See how they interact for that specific problem.
Exactly. The interplay between models is often where the deepest insights lie. So the question isn't just which model to use, but how can you weave them together to see your challenge in a new light and take that next, more effective step? What combination will you choose to apply today?